Hi, it's Kim with the Hypertufa Gardener, and early this March morning we're going to go out and take a look at the spring garden. It's very, very cold this morning, not quite 26 degree Fahrenheit. We've got a lot of frost you can see out over across the lawn, but let's check out the troughs and see how they're doing. They're pretty harsh looking here in this late winter, almost spring morning. A little bit of frost on them, but this sedum has its little tiny ropes that will be full of buds with new growth in the springtime. And this is when I can trim off all those little edges and make new into new flower pots or hypertufa pots. There's frost on this Hispanicum. Some of this is coral reef. The rest of it is one of my sedums. I can't really tell since it's not really put on a lot of growth. But everything just looks cold and frosty. I think that's the sexangulaire there because you can see the little whorled growth patterns. But we've got a lot of our troughs all lined up into the garden. This is my red hot poker. It's almost made a nest for some varmint to live in. That's what that looks like during the springtime, May or June. It starts to bloom and make a really great display. But over the winter, all those little fronds just die down and make a nice little sheltering spot for some little varmint over the winter. I'll have to trim all those off because they'll start growing shortly. Now this is my soapwort, Saponaria rock soapwort. It looks like a white rimmed leaf, but it's not. It's just a hairy leaf. It looks like this in the springtime, almost like phlox, but I just threw out seed here and got all these sprouts. I really like this plant. It's perfect in hypertufa pot, but I just have this growing in the ground. There, of course, is our little dandelion. We'll let it bloom so it'll be food for the bees in the spring. But once that little flower bloom is done, I'm not going to let it set seed. Now here's some John Creech sedum. It also is rimmed with frost. It's among some creeping jenny and some of the dead leaves and things there that have sheltered it over the winter. But it's a beautiful pink blooming flower through I think June is when it blooms. I love that. Spreads all over, but it makes a pretty and interesting winter plant too. And of course the hairy bittercress. I have that close to a lot of my hens and chickens there. I'm not going to spray the vinegar on it because I don't want to kill any of my hens and chicks here at the base of this pot. So I'll just reach in there and pull those out. And there's the creeping speedwell with its tiny little blue flowers. That weed can spread immensely over the springtime if you let it. But here's a lot of my coral reef trying to escape from the little section where I have a lot of my pots. The big giant hypertufa I have growing there. Now over here is a clematis. I have this at the back of the garage. Tulips are coming up here, but that particular clematis, it blooms, I think it's in June. It kind of creates, if I leave it there, it creates a shelter for the birds to get under. Snow will collect over the top of that, and it gives the birds a little shelter to get into, and perhaps even keep warm. But that can all be cut back to the ground because of this, I forget if this is Jackmanii or the Nellie Moser. It'll grow up from the ground and just spread fully. Now this is my garden bench. I'm not sure if I'm going to be taking this with me when I move. I hope to take it with me. And in the shade garden, I have a fern here. I'm not sure the variety of this fern, but it does stay green all year long. And here's what it looks like in the springtime when the elephant ear and all the Japanese painted ferns are all grown out. I have the primrose, the anemone planted over here. These are a lot of urns that we've brought from my daughter's home that will be moving over to the new house. We got a big line of them all lined up and ready to be transported out the gate and put in the back of the truck and taken over. but that won't be for another several weeks. But I'm anxious to get this taken care of. Oh, and here is my lilac bush that we trimmed last year. I'll reference the old film of that video from last spring. We trimmed it all down and cut it down, so I'm expecting it to be fresh and blooming this year. It's got a lot of buds on it, so I'm sure it's going to be a real successful plant this spring. I probably won't be here to see it, but I hope the new owners appreciate the new refreshed lilac bush that I've got for them. Yep, see how thick and bushy and all the branches that have come through? Again, here's the edge of the shade garden with all the moss growing on the retaining wall bricks. I really love the way that looks and hope I can get something similar at the new house. I'll have some more adventures about the new house as we can film over there. But look at all these pots and then all the ones I've got on the other side to take. Thanks for watching. I appreciate.